Welcome back to the Law and Crime Network. My name is Bob Bianchi. I'll be with you at 3 o'clock. Guys, if you know it's the Law and Crime Network, you know it is multiple trials that are live, gavel-to-gavel coverage, and there'd be nothing short of that we have here at the Law and Crime Network today at Dan Abrams' production. Okay, just a snippet there of some cross-examination and one or two redirect questions from one of the law enforcement officers in the case. So it's a perfect opportunity while they're going to go to lunch break right now for me to bring on my great guest, of course, a law and crime legal analyst extraordinaire, hashtag 4041. My friend Gene Rossi, 30 years at the DOJ, has trained over 1,000 prosecutors, has a prolific trial record of over 100 trials. And I can tell you guys, firsthand experience as a guy who does a lot of legal analyzing and a person who's really run the courtroom for many years as a prosecutor and a defense lawyer, Gene Rossi is the real deal. Welcome to the show, Gene.
Wow. Good afternoon.
Yeah, I'm in a good mood today. And my other guest, Keith Lamar, former deputy district attorney. He's out of Hotlanta, Georgia. Hotlanta, former president of the, or maybe current president, I'm not sure, of the National Black Prosecutors Association, current criminal defense attorney. Keith, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
All right, well, I'm going to start with Hotlanta because I've got family that lives down in that area. So, Keith, in this Granville Ritchie case, let's do some broad strokes. I saw some testimony earlier today where the Lexus of the defendant is found with a suitcase in it, and apparently sand in the vehicle and/or in the suitcase that matches the sand from the area where the victim was recovered. Certainly would be a strong piece of evidence in this case. What do you think so far, or what's your analysis about how this case is strength-wise, since you've been both a deputy district attorney as well as a defense lawyer now? What are you thinking?
Well, I think that's wonderful information, wonderful evidence to have. If you have the same sand that the lady was found in your suitcase, that's terrible evidence right there for the defense to have. As a prosecutor, I would use that. I would talk about that. It's not just happenstance that happened to be there like that. So that's very strong evidence, and I hope they touch on that a lot.
Gene, we've talked about this before, but you know, a lot of people here, and this network is just exploding with viewership here, and we have a lot of young aspiring trial attorneys and our true crime buffs, and you know, our chatters, our second jury, which unfortunately today I don't have my computer, so for those of you who are in the chat room, hello to you. I'm sorry I'm not going to be able to respond to you today, but explain the importance and whether you were a detail guy or not as a prosecutor of your opening statement in terms of how that lays the case out.
Well, as you and Keith know, as a prosecutor, I always taught my baby prosecutors, my kids, if you will, do not overpromise in your opening statement if you're a prosecutor and also as a defense attorney. What you do in opening as a prosecutor is you underpromise, then overperform. Because I have a war story, I'm not going to share it, but I had a hung jury because in our opening, we swung for the fences and we came up short, and the defense attorney made us eat, literally made us eat our opening statement.
Yeah, Keith, I agree with Gene about that everything you say, especially as a prosecutor, has got to be 100% accurate, and you got to make sure, you got to know in your mind that for a fact you can prove it. Otherwise, the good defense lawyer is going to jam that down your throat. But there's also a very important thing in an opening statement, because testimony doesn't come out sequentially like it does in a real life scenario. You have to go witness by witness, and it's important that the jury says, now I know why they're calling that witness. That's when the prosecutor explained in the opening statement. What are your thoughts?
I agree. It's all about painting a perfect picture. You know, as a prosecutor, as a defense attorney as well, you know, we just have the characters. We don't actually get to pick all our actors. So you got to make sure that you lay the proper foundation. As you said, do not overpromise, because when you do that, you're setting a hole for yourself on both sides of the fence. But at the end of the day, you got to make sure to paint the picture where it's very clear. We always tell people, when I was a prosecutor, make sure a kindergartner can understand what you're talking about.
Right, Gene, you know, that is such a good point that Keith is making. I remember an assistant prosecutor who was so erudite and so obnoxious in front of the jury that he lost cases he clearly should have won. And when a judge finally sat him down and explained, you're the reason you're losing the cases, and he took a little zip off the fastball, spoke more like a regular, ordinary person, he was unbelievable. He was hitting it out of the park. He couldn't lose a case. Thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. And the other thing is, when you do your opening, especially as a prosecutor, just don't seriatim, fancy word, Don't seriatim just list off the witnesses and what they're going to say. Try, if you can, put together a verbal mosaic so you have sort of a theme and a story to tell without just rattling off what A, B, and C are going to say without connecting the dots.
I agree completely with you guys. Boy, this is going to be a great panel to have here today. And I also, just to add on for our young trial lawyers that are out there, try not to be beholden to your notes, to legal pads, and to presentations. Speak from the heart. No from the head. Speak from the heart. Okay, Gene, Keith, they're on so many levels. I don't know where to start with you guys. So they're in this apartment. I believe I heard him say that she may have been under the influence of ecstasy, but at a certain point in time, he wants her to go buy weed. And what does everybody do when you need, to find out where to buy weed? You call your grandfather. I mean, that's what you do. The imagery of that, I'm thinking about my grandparents. That I'd be calling my grandfather and asking where to buy weed just was really something else. But it comes to this critical point that she's leaving, and she says to her, to Felecia, the 9-year-old, come with me. And he says, no, you're going to be transporting weed, and you have no license. Now, we know where the prosecutor's going with that. He was basically laying in wait to keep the girl there, trying to find a way to get her out of the apartment so he could sexually assault her. But Keith, I'll start with you. I mean, you're closer to Florida than any of us. Is this a normal thing where you call your grandpa in order to get some weed?
No grandpa I know. That was different. If they need to explain that, who's the grandpa? Is he a weed man or something? They might want to explain that. That doesn't make any sense to me. I would never do that. But I do like that he's starting to set it up now. So he's starting to see the dominoes. He's starting to see the pieces come together. And hopefully he's going to knock it down the right way in an orderly fashion. Because you want to make sure that people understand the actual order of events. So I like that he's showing that he's able to take control of this lady's mind, that he's manipulating the actual Miss Ebony in order to get this young child alone to himself. So hopefully they can break it down and knock it out in the right order.
All right, so Gene, Ebony Wiley is obviously the central, figure here, and let's not forget that she was charged in May of 2014 with providing false information to law enforcement and having given a number, I think it was 3 different accounts. You see a picture of her there, right there. Obviously, drug person, under the influence, left this child in this location. Obviously, wasn't looking after the well-being of the child by even being with this guy, and then going and getting drugs. And the guy actually had a point, if it's true, getting in a car without a license and getting drugs. But she's going to be a state's witness potentially, because it sounds like this information could only have come from her. How do you handle a person like this in front of a jury as a prosecutor who is going to be subjected to intense cross-examination? Well,
this gets to the concept of fronting. And whenever I had a witness with a lot of baggage, giglio information, evidence that questions their truth and veracity, in my direct exam as a prosecutor, I fronted it. I showed the jury and brought up the good, the bad, and the ugly. And during her direct exam by me, I would get out that she lied, and I'd also get out why she lied. And it's pretty evident she lied to the police to protect her husband, the defendant. So that's goal number 1. I was never troubled by witnesses who had lied to police or lied under oath to grand juries. I called 2 witnesses who had been convicted of lying to a grand jury in a drug case. The jury loved them. As long as you don't hide the ball during direct exam, that way during cross, it's not really as much of a sting.
Yeah, and I don't know, Keith, would you also bring it out in your opening?
Oh, yeah, I definitely bring it up. I'll bring it up that, this defendant here or these witnesses that you're going to hear from, they're not squeaky clean. And as we mentioned earlier, we don't get to pick the actual actors and the characters in our scene that we're painting for you. But you got to get ahead of it. A lot of young attorneys hear that and they're like, oh, well, we don't really want people to hear this. But no, you got to let them hear it, because if the defense brings it up, now it makes you as a state look like you're trying to hide something from the jury. So get it all out on the table, be as transparent as possible, and go forth.
Well, all I can say to you folks out there that are watching this show, for your true crime aficionados, those who love true crime, those who love the law, that if you want to see excellent legal analysis continuing with Keith Lamar and my man Gene Rossi, there's only one network in the entire world right now where you could do that. That is the Law and Crime Network. So stay tuned. Take a quick break. We'll be right back.